Hello and welcome to See You Tomorrow, the MA Art and Science Virtual Open Studio. My name is Molly MacLeod and I'm a multidisciplinary artist and a second year student on the MA Art and Science course at Central St Martin's. This year is a little different from the usual Open Studio event, but as artists and innovators, we have seen this reinterpretation as an opportunity to reach a wider audience from anywhere in the world and to celebrate our own global dispersion. Determined not to cancel yet another event, the students on MA Art and Science have come together to create an interactive virtual map of our work and our whereabouts. You can see a still image of this map on the slide here. We also wanted to explore bringing an element of physicality to our virtual worlds too. So whilst abiding by the current government guidelines, we have also placed eco-friendly, biodegradable QR codes at the locations plotted out on the virtual map too. You can see examples of some interpretations of this intervention on the slide in front of you. These QR codes are an invitation to walk, to breathe, and to hunt in your local area for these elusive images. We wanted to use our geographical restrictions and boundaries to inspire creativity and ingenuity within each other. To the left, we have two first-year students, Patrick and Diana, using biodegradable to paste up their QR codes in very differing environments. To the right is my interpretation. Using water-soluble paper and native seeds, I wanted to create something temporary and delicate, sensitive to the weather, and eventually bringing new life once the paper has dissolved and the seeds have fallen to the ground. We all followed the leave no trace concept, and these parameters gave way to some pretty beautiful and inventive results. So thank you all for coming to this event, and thank you to our tutors and the other staff at Central St Martin's for their valuable guidance throughout this experience. I will begin tonight's event with a short virtual tour of our interactive map, and this will be followed by a series of exciting one-off performances, artists' presentations about their practice, and a couple of live studio tours from Paris and from London. We hope this programme will offer an intriguing glimpse into the spaces and locations that have become our studios during a strange year of limited university access. We have also carved out some time for a question and answer session at the end of this event. So here we have the interactive virtual map. This can be found on the MA Art and Science website under the drop-down Student Work. The map is navigated by zooming in and out to reveal the different students plotted out on the map. And when you click on a student, a link to their practice is displayed. For example, here we have first year student Laurent, who is currently situated in France. Her work centres around interpretations of textiles and costume and environmental activism. Here is her project, Dance the Amazon, an idea conceived on the Lab Verde residency programme in the Amazon rainforest. Her textile piece has since continued its lifespan, being sent all over the world to dancers, creating a network of new interactions. And here we have Anna, a second-year student, who is a cognitive neuroscientist and multimedia visual artist, whose work was recently exhibited at the Freud Museum in London as part of their Melancholia exhibition. If we zoom in very closely, on the London area, we will see naturally a large concentration of students. We can take a peep at Laura's website here. She is a first-year student with experience as both an art practitioner and a business consultant. Her work draws on interest and experience in futures, emerging human behaviours, emotion, empathy, nature, wilderness, systems, science, and technology. Here we can see her project, Alone Together, where she beautifully captures a site that has become so familiar and so poignant throughout a year of lockdowns. So I hope you enjoyed this little glimpse into our virtual open studio, and please take the time to explore the map yourselves and uncover some exciting new artists at the forefront of the changing art world. I will now hand over to Shivani, a first-year student on the course, to introduce the various performers, presenters, and studio tour guides we have lined up for you this evening. Just a little disclaimer about the upcoming performances. There may be flashing lights and images, and perhaps adult content. Over to you, Shivani.
Thank you, Molly, and good evening, everybody. My name is Shivani Mathur, and on behalf of the MA Art and Science at Central St. Martin's, I would like to welcome you to the live event this evening for the Open Studio. The Open Studio has been running for a month, and it's been a wonderful experience to exhibit our work in progress. The feedback has made us think in new dimensions and in new ways about the way we work and the way we create art. We're now going to have some live presentations, some walkthroughs, artist studios. And if you have any questions or any thoughts, please do share them with us in the Q&A tab at the bottom of your screen, because it's going to be followed up with a Q&A session. So without further ado, our first artist this evening is Anita Chanda. Anita is a multidisciplinary artist, and she's doing her research on memory and well-being. Today, Anita is going to tell us a story of how we came together and created new work despite being apart. Over to you, Anita.
These hands were apart, sad, alone, but not restrained. They were free. They had power, an artist's power. We reached out and we came together. We grew stronger together. We had ideas. We shared. We cared. We found each other. We worked. We created. We grew. We experimented. We had new work. We now present to you.
Thank you, Anita. Let's hope very soon we're going to be sharing physical art once again. Our next artist today, joining us from Paris, is Clémence Vazat. Clémence explores gender violence. Her work empowers female representation through performance, video, photography, collage, and sound. And Clémence uses plastic language to transform intimate narratives into visual manifestos. So we have now Clémence from Paris.
Welcome to my studio. I am Clémence Vazard and I am an interdisciplinary artist. Through my artworks, I question women's representations and empower their voices. During my Master Art and Science at Central St. Martin's, I focus my research and practice on the reintroduction of affect and politics into art. How a participatory, collective, and interdisciplinary approach, inspired by feminist thought and action, can foster the emergence of an aesthetics with a strong social impact. During this open studio, I explored themes as disparition and revelation, mourning and honoring, transformation and empowerment through self-narrative. I worked with varied materials or medium, such as cement, rituals, social media, and my own body. I am currently working on a reenactment of Susan Lacey's participatory performance from 1979. Just like back then, women from all around the world are invited to meet and share a 24-hour dinner to celebrate sisterhood, women's rights, and feminist movements around the world, except this time they'll meet online. My reenactment of this performance takes a new meaning today in the age of the internet and COVID-19. Whereas in 1979 the challenge of this project was to reach women around the world, the challenge in 2021 is to create a meaningful encounter between them. I'll be launching this project on the 15th of March during our interim show.
Thank you, Clémence. And I hope we can all join Clémence on the 15th of March for this great cause. Our next artist today is Mette Blanco. So Mette is a zoologist, and she's interested in the field of contemporary art, psychoanalysis, and synesthesia. Mette observes the human as an organism that responds to and interacts with its environment. Now, this includes exploring the self, the other, and what she calls the umwelt. So over to you, Mette. Thank you, Mette. So we are now going to move over to our next artist, who's Steve Wheeler. And Steve is a multidisciplinary artist from Southeast London. Steve works with a variety of found and recycled materials, which have been salvaged from the many construction sites of London. And they've been washed up on the bank of the River Thames, and he retrieves them from there. So Steve is good. He takes inspiration from mythology, from folklore, from science fiction, and other imaginary places. And we have a small video presentation from Steve now.
That's basically how it started for me.
up there somewhere. I think the hive is probably hiding up there.
Matter-antimatter hives do. They combine matter and antimatter particles in controlled explosions that produce energy, which is used to essentially fuel themselves.
Up there, maybe? Risky to come here after dark, but if I could, I'd probably be able to spot the drones more easily.
Thank you, Steve. Very, very, very imaginative. We now have Yan Cheng, who's going to give us a tour of his studio in London. Yan was born in England to parents of Hong Kong descent. He's lived in Berlin, he's lived in New York, and then he returned to London to study at CSM. And this evening, Yan will take us on a tour live to his studio in London. Over to you, Yan.
Hi everyone, can you hear me? Thank you for joining me. My name is Yan, and tonight I'm going to show you around my studio, so come on in. So this is my studio in North London. I share with a group of architects, and my studio is on the top mezzanine floor here. I'm at Greenhouse, Markfield Road, near Seven Sisters Station. So if you're ever close by, come say hello. I'll just give you a little tour here. That's the reading area. That's the kitchen. Someone's making a cup of coffee. And the communal meeting desk. And this is my studio here. As you can see, it's a triangular shaped space. So tonight I'm going to show you some of my works and some of the organisms that I'm collaborating with. At this moment, my artistic practice is centered around human and non-human relationships and how collaboration with non-human life forms can be framed within the context of performance. And as you can see here is Persea americana, commonly known as advocado. So I've been collecting every advocado seed from the beginning of lockdown as an intervention, and I've been growing them instead of being food waste. Here is my desk. This is where I work. These are my scientific instruments. This is my rotating Petri dish, which I worked with Jeremy Keenan in physical computing. And this is my OptiTech microscope. And this project is actually in collaboration with Audrey, my classmate, who you might have met at the Instagram live interviews. And we're both exploring micro-macro binaries. I'm quite interested in the scientific instrument and how it can be recontextualized outside of the realm of the science lab. Here are my drawings that I've taken from scientific data. I've taken these from moth flight patterns. This is the second one, don't know if you can see here. And this is part of my degree show called Insect Poetics. And I'm thinking of staging a nocturnal event. So watch this space. Here, I'm working on Sellout Print Project by Alex Shady. I'll quickly show you my pink oyster that I spray painted, which I decided not to continue with because I thought it was too cruel. But I quite like the way the spray paint has preserved and fossilized the organism. I'll show you some of my prints. These prints I've been making by using scent and color correspondences. So this on the left is lavender. You can't smell it, but it's lavender here. And on the right, I think, is cedarwood. So thank you for coming to my studio, and that's the end of my tour. Thank you.
Yeah, and I'm going to visit your studio when lockdown is over. It's so exciting. Our next artist this evening is going to be Ruth Holgarten. And Ruth is a doctor and she's a sculptor. So she explores the precarious balance of bodies interacting with the world. And her medical practice also is within the family medicine realm, and it explores similar themes. And today, she's got us a sculpture made with medical waste and medical products. So over to you, Ruth. Thank you, Ruth, for that sculpture. It's very appropriate at a time when the whole of the UK is getting vaccinated. Now we're going to move on to a slightly different topic, and we have for our next artist, Lucy Dukes. Lucy is an interdisciplinarian artist, and she's interested in the entanglement between human things and things that are other than human, from a very tiny quantum plane. And she's going to be talking to us live and tell us a little bit about her practice. So I'm going to hand you now to Lucy Dukes.
Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. So my name's Lucy. Thank you to everyone so far for your amazing presentations. Jan, I love seeing your studio. I'm in my studio as well right now, which I share with my mum and my dog, who you can see on the left-hand side here. And on the right, there's part of an image of a neural stem cell, which is a series I've been working on. So I wanted to show you a couple of the projects I've been looking at recently. So the first one is about neural stem cells, which I think are just the coolest things. And I never would have looked at them if I hadn't done this course. I actually would have been against them, really. I wouldn't want to know about them, but they are so interesting. So they're these tiny, like other than human actors that make decisions and have this incredible behavior where they can differentiate and form something completely new and create these complex interconnections. And I mean, our entire bodies wouldn't really exist without stem cells. So they're very cool things, but then on a societal level, because of this potential they have, we really interpret it as hope for curing diseases, but also it leads to many ethical issues as well. So I've been trying to explore that through drawing and through creating things about it and layering images. And I was inspired by the work of the scientist Alice Taylor, who also works at Central St. Martin's right now. And these are the images that she took of neural stem cells, which she grew on diamonds and saw them transform and differentiate into neurons. And I think you can see why I was so inspired by them, because just the colors, the patterns, all of it is so, so cool. And she grew these while she was working at Great Ormond Street Hospital. So then I took this idea of these tiny decision makers and this behavior, and I started working with paper, which was the material I was given to work with, making my own paper, looking at these spontaneous connections and decisions that can be made through ink and through like kind of analyzing these networks that can form. And what I became increasingly fascinated by was how these networks don't just form at a neurological level, but they exist from micro to macro levels. So you can see them in mycelium networks between forests and trees. You can see them in connections that the internet forms. You can see them again on a universal level. If you zoom out in how scientists think that the distribution of light and dark matter is distributed, you see these same forms and patterns emerging, which I just think is the coolest thing ever. So the second thing I wanted to show you was my work with moss. So I've been investigating along this lens of other than human connections. I've been investigating the site where I live through the lens of the moss that exists all around this site. So you can see on the left-hand side there, some moss that's in my studio. I've been trying to investigate what it's like to be moss, basically, but through drawing it and my relationship with it. And so these are some huge drawings and some tiny ones as well to play around with scale and really get at these experiences of time and relativity that change when you're an other than human creature. So looking at color as well and things like that, which has just been really, really interesting. And finally, I wanted to show you the SCOBY experiment. So I've begun using or working with a symbiotic culture of bacteria and yeast, which is this living organism that you can dry and it regenerates. And when you dry it, it forms almost a paper-like surface, or you can make it into leather, other things like that. So on the right-hand side, you can see it's dried and it looks a little bit like the surface of the moon, which I think is really cool too. And so, yeah, I'm experimenting with using that as a surface to paint on or something like that. And that is all I have time for. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Lucy. I enjoyed that very much. Now we have another artist on a very similar theme, Kelly Briggs. Kelly responds playfully to the world of natural network connections. And her film, in which the forest is a brain, poses the question, what can we learn by slowing down and experiencing nature? So over to Kelly. Thank you, Kelly. Our next artist this evening is Sofia Sakova. Sofia is a multidisciplinary artist from Slovakia. And today she's going to present a video performance of nonverbal communication during the pandemic, where each movement of the hand means a unique code between possibly what is the strongest relationship in the world, the relationship of a mother and a daughter. So over to you, Sofia. Thank you very much, Sophia. So that brings us to the end of our live performances for this evening. I'm now going to hand over to Sosha Jewel. And Sosha is going to take questions from the audience for a deep dive into how we as artists work, how we think, and how we create. So please do put your questions in the Q&A tab. I can see that there are a few already. And I'm going to now hand over to Sosha. So Sosha, please. Sosha, I think there may be some IT glitch. She's joining back. In the meantime, these are the artists who are on the panel this evening. And please feel free to put questions in the Q&A section of your chat and direct your questions to any of the above artists, or even for that matter, the artists that you have seen on the website who are not necessarily on this panel right here. I can do that. Yeah. I think till Sosha comes in, maybe we can start for the first question, which is for Meti. And the question, Meti, are you there? Meti, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
So the first question is for you. And the question that we have from the audience is that, are you interested in directly using your knowledge in zoology on your MA? How do you relate, zoology to art and your MA practice?
Yes. Can you see me? I just wondering if you can.
Yes. Can
Okay,
see.
great. Yes. First of all, I think that what is behind the exploration of art that I am doing, since I come from science, I wanted to explore the art from the very beginning. So I think that I come from a very philosophical aspect first. There was this philosopher called Aldo Leopold, and he was a naturalist. And he talked a lot about how a relationship is, well, how our brains have been made in nature and in around green areas and the land, and how we treat the land. So I'm very interested in creating a space of ecotherapy. So I base my work in natural systems. So right now I'm interested in trees, and I'm interested in biodiversity auditive data, and transforming that data to kind of raise awareness of how nature sounds when it's alone, and how nature sounds when there is disturbance from humans. And in the other side, I'm interested in creating a practice that essentially involves the human and wealth. So like an exploration that is very retrospective, in which even if it's me or if it's someone else that wants to interact with my art, in both ways, there is exploration of the self and an exploration of the senses. So this is when the synesthesia approach comes, where I use colors to explore the concepts that come to mind. And I try to use diagrams to classify how the human perceive these colors. And the techniques are so far wet on wet, abstract oils, but I'm also interested in doing performance drawings and a few similar things like that. So I hope that that gets the idea, but if not, I can answer further questions.
Thank you, Meti. I think we have Sosha back now, and I'm going to hand over to Sosha for the rest of the Q&A session.
Hi guys. Yes, I'm very sorry about that. My laptop decided to quit Zoom for no apparent reason. I have lost some of the questions, I'm afraid. So if there are some that haven't been answered or I don't answer, could you retype the ones potentially that you really wanted answered in the chat, or rather in the Q&A box, sorry. Yes, so I have a question for Molly here. What is your most unusual material you have worked with?
Hi.
Hi.
So, off the top of my head, the most unusual material. So I've been working a lot with crystals and piezoelectricity, and I'm currently at the moment working on using carbon from my own body. So I've been collecting hair and nail samples for about a year now from myself. And I've been burning those and turning those into carbon, separating out the carbon particles, and then using those to build a carbon microphone. So using my own body to record sounds. And that's an idea I'm sort of developing at the moment. So I guess, yeah, that's probably the strangest one up to date.
Brilliant. That's incredible. I've not heard of someone splitting the carbon from tissue samples like that. That's amazing. Yes, thank you, Molly. I have another question. Sorry, 1 second. Yes, I have a question here from Milani. I am a bachelor student in the Netherlands trying to explore microbiology and botany in my art practice. I try to look for artists who have a similar view to get inspiration, but I seem to find none. Do you have any advice on where and how I should get started? Is there anyone who would like to answer that? Hi, Lucy.
Hey, yes, that is a brilliant question, and I will write in the type answer section as well any people that I think of, and anybody else who can think of anyone, also go ahead and write them. But I think the coolest place to start is definitely with people who are doing courses like this, because we're so interested in these kind of areas that we come across all these different people, and especially at CSM in particular, there's a whole bio design course as well, and there's we have a grow lab that when we can use it, we have access to. So there's a lot of microbiology stuff going on there. So I was the same and didn't really know any artists who work in this area, and now I've been discovering way more of them. So I will type different names I can think of, but I would say go on Instagram and search different people, search the people on this course, and they'll lead you to some amazing places, because that's what I've been doing.
Absolutely, thank you, Lucy. Yes, and yeah, particularly with the courses that CSM run, and there are similar courses around the world, but of course, CSM seems to have a particular specialty in art and science type courses. We're all interested in such a massive range of art and science, and different types of science and medicine, and it's an incredible range, and an incredible range of both art and science disciplines within such within the course itself. Yes, thank you. I have a question from Phil here. I'm wondering if you might say something about how you have found the interface between your physical work in the studio and your separation from your fellow students and your audience. I know personally this has been a huge shift for me, because my work was very studio based and very sort of large scale physical work, and I've now moved into the digital realm, and this has meant that our interface of not actually ever being able to have a physical interaction with the artwork has completely changed how a lot of us have viewed work. Lauren, would you like to say something?
Yeah, I think as you said, everyone can rely on this question, because everyone feel obviously this separation as the main subject maybe of our MA without wanting it. I think we, especially with the open studio, we really try to connect with each other in a different way, with the map, with the Q&A. There were all those all of this thinking about how to connect the virtual and the non-virtual world. And for me especially, it's hard, of course, to like be in an MA without knowing personally the people I work with. But at the end, I think we still manage to understand each other and meet each other online, which is that's cool. But
Absolutely, thank you, Lauren. Steve, would you like to say something? Oh, you're muted, Steve.
Sorry, always forget about unmute.
Don't we all?
It's been a very surreal experience, having sort of doing my work in a physical space, but then having this whole online space, which is the only area I see my cohort in. And it's almost, at some point, it almost became this weird kind of like other world, where I was sort of like I'm always half tuned into this kind of virtual space where everyone is, but then also having to come out of it to go off and do my actual work in the physical world. And because I'm now doing more digital work as a result of the pandemic, the two are starting to blur together in weird ways, as more of my work starts to go digital.
Absolutely, yeah. I'm with you with it being very surreal, sort of knowing all of us being together, but actually being in completely different areas of the world. Shivani, would you like to say something?
Yes, thank you, Sosha. There's another dimension for me. Of course, because of the lockdown, we're all alone and we don't interact physically. And typically one thinks of it as a sort of a temporary and a problematic thing. But I have actually found, on the contrary, that talking to people and having really deep conversations on video, like, like what we're doing now, is really quite nice, because you get to have really deep conversations. There is nothing which is distracting. You see people in their native environment, so you're not in a fake environment. And it actually opens up the door for quite deep conversations, because you see people as they're eating their daily food, you see them wearing their pajamas, which you would never see otherwise. So I really like it because I feel that the connection can be deeper. And we've also started, like, on this sort of e-platform kind of thing, having question and answer artwork. So, like, for example, I make a painting and another artist responds to that and sends it to me. So I really like it. I think it's not about constraining ourselves and trying to adapt. It's actually growing in a different way, which I like. Thank you.
I can continue on from Shivani.
Yes, yeah, go ahead, Jan.
Yeah, it's obviously been very challenging, but I've been finding ways to collaborate, even though everything has been online. For example, I've been collaborating with Mariana on the print project, and she graduated last year, and we set a kind of certain deadline where we will post each other something that we're working on every Monday, and then we'll meet online every Friday, and we kind of discuss how to improve our technical abilities and what we're doing, because obviously now that the workshops are closed, we have to find other ways to create our art. This is a relief print using a cabbage leaf here that Mariana sent me last week. And this is a package that I got from Lucy Jutes, who's in the first year. And I think Shivani was explaining this kind of nomadic sketchbook that we're developing. So I'll have to work on this week and think about how we can collaboratively create an artwork together. So.
Brilliant. Yes, the sketchbooks that Lucy's been sending out to a few different people. I'm very excited to work collaboratively with you all on these kind of, these sketchbooks that should be so rich once they're filled. Yes, Ruth, would you like to say something?
Sure. So my work, I hang outside my house, and I sit on the doorstep and people talk to me. Neighbours, people passing by, and we chat, and I've met all sorts of people, and they give me crits, and now they're asking what I'm going to hang up next. So, I have insisted on being in the real space with 3D work, and it's been amazing.
Brilliant. Is your sculpture still up?
Yes, it is. Yep.
Brilliant.
Still up until the next show, which is 15th of March, and I'll put something else out. So yeah, it's been really great.
Fab. Thank you, Ruth. Yes, Anita, what would you like to say? Oh, you're muted.
Picking up on the point that Shivani and Jan and Ruth said, I think we've actually made a bigger attempt to overcome the physicality. We've become more physical, weirdly enough, because it's been much more focused on how do we make the connection. That's why my piece on the hands, that we were apart but we were stronger together. We grew stronger, and we have got to know each other at a much deeper level. The tutors have also given us their time. We've had our group chats from time to time, and we are seeing more of each other and getting to know each other. And we are being far more creative, aren't we? Absolutely. Using materials we would never have used.
Yeah, no, I know I've moved in a completely different direction to where I was going this time last year. Yeah. Yes, Kelly.
Hey, this is a great question. I mean, we're all so excited to answer it. So, hi everyone, I'm Kelly. I was the artist who had the video about the brain, the forest playing a brain. So definitely, I feel like I've made really strong friendships and really strong connections, and I can phone anyone up and have a great conversation, and that's such a beautiful thing, right? But there's also this thing that's come out of my practice where I want to really share the process, and I want to share sort of like the mixing of the paint. And so I'm a painter, I'm in my studio at the moment, and here the kind of palette knife on the canvas, if you can imagine that, and smell the paint and try and make everything I'm doing more the process, bring that to the forefront, as a way to connect to my audience. So you can't ever see my paintings, well, you can't at the moment, properly in the flesh or in the canvas. So I have to create a new way for you to experience this thing. And so I've had to use video, which ironically then is a longer process of recording and maybe takes me further away from my process, just so I can share it. So then in the end, the whole process becomes what I'm sharing.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Molly.
Hi. Yeah, I think working in an online setting, it's been very frustrating in a lot of ways, but it's also been kind of exciting. I'm a very strong believer that creativity flourishes under parameters and restrictions, and a lot of my practice centers around that idea, setting up parameters for biological organisms or for audience interaction. And I'm interested in the point at which a bioartist steps back and sort of releases control of their work. And I think that trying to reconfigure the things I like to do with interaction that used to be quite physical and using touch and biology, things that I can't do anymore online. So I think it's had to make me really rethink my entire practice. And those restrictions have actually been quite good because they really bring out the creative thinker in you. And I'm excited for the final degree show, and everyone's come up with all these amazing ideas to reinterpret their practice online. So that should be a really exciting thing, I think.
Fab. Thank you, Molly. Yes, well, I'm afraid we are now out of time. Yes, I'm sorry for my technical difficulties. We have had quite a few artists answer the questions in the Q&A box. So if some of your questions weren't answered in the live chat, check the box in case it's been answered there. And I shall now hand it over to Shivani, and thank you everyone for joining the Q&A.
I was on mute. Thank you, Sosha, and thank you everybody for joining us this evening. The Open Studio is open for another 3 days, and you can look at the link in the chat and look at all the work of the artists, because there's some really, really interesting stuff there, and we've just managed to scratch the surface this evening. So I do hope that you will engage and give us some good feedback, and we want to thank you for your support and for being here this evening. Thank you and goodbye.